Hare Krishna, everyone. So welcome back to our Sravan Utsav. Today we have our very own Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji here on Sravan Utsav. And I'm saying our very own because he has very kindly always, whenever we have these online programs, very quickly Prabhuji agrees for coming and giving these discourses on Krishna Katha. And every time Prabhuji has also, whenever it was possible, earlier when he was traveling, he has always come to Wellington and stayed for a sizable amount of time and given various seminars for our benefit. So we are very, very pleased to have Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. Most of you know about his glories, but those who are hearing him for the first time, I'll just quickly introduce him. So Prabhuji got introduced to Krishna consciousness in 1996. So Prabhuji has more than now 26 years of experience in this process of bhakti. And Prabhuji is a very thoughtful devotee. So when we actually just read Srila Prabhupada books, Prabhuji actually thinks through all the books and whatever he is reading. And that is why we get those various wonderful insights when Prabhuji is giving those lectures. He always very logically presents the Krishna conscious philosophy. And that's why it is very attractive to the devotees who are learned, who are scientifically minded. Prabhuji also runs various websites. His famous website is thespiritualscientist.com, where he answers thousands of questions from the spiritual seekers. And he also has GitaDaily.com website where he publishes article on Bhagavad Gita every day. He also has the website with his own name, ChaitanyaCharan.com. So there as well, we can actually see various lectures. From the material education perspective, Prabhuji has done his electronics and telecommunication engineering from a very reputed college here in Pune, where I'm currently sitting. He travels, and he used to travel just before COVID, to many countries, including Australia, New Zealand, America, UK, and of course in India, in various cities here in India. He has given talks on spiritual subjects in many universities as well, and very reputed ones like Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, Cambridge. And he has also given lectures in various big corporate offices as well, like Intel, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, as well as when he was in New Zealand, he has also given talks in BNZ, IAG, and of course, our very own JOSD, he has given lectures. He has written more than 25 books, and I'm sure that he would have written many more in the last 2 years when he was confined at one place, especially at GV. So I'm sure he would have written many more books in that time that he has got. Prabhuji has published hundreds of articles on his website as well as in leading newspapers in India. He is the member of ISKCON's leading intellectual body, the Shastric Advisory Council, and he's the associate editor of ISKCON's global magazine, Back to Godhead. So Prabhuji's glories just continues, but if we actually keep talking about everything, then probably 1 hour will be gone. So we will stop here and we will welcome Prabhuji by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Are you all ready?
Yes,
Okay, let's do it. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the kind introduction. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम
Hare
राम
Rama,
राम हरे हरे।
Rama Hare Hare, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So I'm grateful to be here with all of you today, and Ambarish Maharaj was very kind to introduce me. Actually, it's a pleasure to be with him and all the devotees who are cultivated by him. All of you have, from whatever I have observed, a wonderful taste for hearing, and I think that is the culture that has been developed over there. So for a speaker about Krishna, it is actually, you could say, spiritual sense gratification to have an audience that is eager to hear. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. So I'll be speaking today on the 37th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's, I'm just giving here the chapter overview from the 10th canto. As we know, the 10th canto has 90 chapters. So out of which 40 chapters describe the Vraja Leela. So the prayers of Akrura, they mark the end of Krishna in Vrindavan. It's significant that the Krishna's entry into Vrindavan and Krishna's leaving Vrindavan are marked with prayers. Krishna's entry into Vrindavan is he enters in the womb of Mother Devaki, and that is the Garbhastuti prayers. This is the second chapter. The advent of Lord Krishna, that first chapter is basically Krishna himself is not present. It is the background to Krishna's appearance, Kamsa's atrocities are described. So here, if we consider after this, it is Krishna's interaction with Akrura and his preparation to depart. So these are the last encounters that Krishna has in Vrindavan. And in general, whenever we have any narration of pastimes, so what happens is in the Bhagavatam, and this is also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we see this also in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, that quite often one chapter may cover many things. So that's why the chapter title may not always include all the aspects of what is there in the chapter. Sometimes a chapter is focused on one pastime, like the previous chapter was the slaying of Arishtadeva. That is what is the focus. Now here, there is a description of the killing of the demons Keshi and Vyoma. However, there is one more thing in this chapter. And that one more thing is, let's look at the overview of this chapter now. There is the description of how Narada Muni comes to Vrindavan and he speaks. So we'll be discussing these three broad sections. I'll be using a PowerPoint, and I may also use this as a whiteboard to type something. So there are 33 verses in this chapter. So I'll refer to Krishna Book, but I'll focus on the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam while discussing. So the first 8 verses talk about the killing of Keshi by Krishna. Then the major part of the chapter, which doesn't come in the title, is 9 to 24. That is, Narada Muni appears in Vrindavan and he glorifies Krishna. So how does he glorify Krishna? He does with two things. He offers prayers to Krishna, describing his supreme position, and then he also glorifies Krishna by describing Krishna's pastimes. The recent pastime means he describes how you just killed the Keshi demon, but significantly he describes Krishna's future pastimes. And here you will see that Narada Muni describes Krishna's future pastimes, and Prabhupada actually in Krishna Book goes in further detail and describes those pastimes even more. That means some pastimes which are not mentioned explicitly by Narada Muni, Prabhupada also lists those pastimes. Now the Acharyas have talked about what all Narada Muni speaks and elaboration, but the point is, this is an interesting point that Narada Muni is actually describing future pastimes, and we'll discuss the significance of that. And the last part is Krishna kills Vyoma. So we'll discuss each of these sections one by one. And after each section, I will pause. And if there is any question, we can have a short question related with that section itself. And at the end, we may have a full question answers. We may have some more questions at the also. So here we'll see Krishna kills the Keshi demon. So I will just take one verse from the section, from each section if required. So this is the first verse. So Shukadeva Goswami starts by describing Keshi tu Kamsa Prahitaha. So Kamsa Prahitaha, he was sent by Kamsa. Each of these demons, they were actually demoniac in their own right, but they had also allied with Kamsa, because Kamsa was the most powerful demon, and he had conquered or subordinated all of them, and they were working for him. So Kamsa Prahitaha, Khurair Mahim. So this was a huge horse-like creature. Actually, it is, sometimes we call Keshi as a horse. It is a demon in the form of a horse. Mahim, huge. Mahahayo, Nirjarayam Manojavaha. So Mahahayo, he was giant form, and the mane on his head, the mane on his neck, the hair on the head of on the neck of a horse is often called as the mane. So the hair on that was rising and it was scattering the clouds. It appeared like that. Manojava, and he charged in. He charged in. It seemed almost as if he was coming at the speed of the mind. Shatavad Adbhut Abhra Vimana Sankulam. In fact, the height and the speed both combined in such a way that not only were the clouds scattered, but in the sky there were the devatas who were flying in their sky airplanes. They airplanes also got scattered by the sheer force of his charge. Kurvan Nabho Heshita Vishita Akhilaha. So in this way, he created complete disruption in Vrindavan. So this particular demon's entry is actually the most disruptive, directly disruptive in Vrindavan after Trinavart's entry. If we compare the various demons that are described in Krishna Lila, they all have their own forms and they have all their own ways of entry. So for example, Putana comes in a very discreet way. She conceals herself in a very attractive form that is maternally attractive for the women, and that is also sensually attractive for the men. So both guards are lowered. So so she doesn't come in a threatening form. Trinavarth comes in a threatening form, and some other demons come, but here this demon comes in a threatening form, charging. If we see Vatsasur and others, they hide. Aghasur appears like a playground. So Bakasur is a duck. What is a duck? Duck is not a particularly threatening animal, but here he comes charging in, and so it's an open aggression over here. What is happening is, slowly, as Krishna is Kamsa is sending demons one by one, and what happens is they all go to Vrindavan and Yadgatva Nanivartante. They go to Vrindavan, they don't come back. But they're not going that Dhama Paramam. They may go by Krishna's mercy. But from Kamsa's perspective, they're all dying. So these demons also have some sense of collegiality or camaraderie between them. So as one demon is killed, another demon is killed. The future demons become more apprehensive, more angry. And here Kamsa Keshi is charging in. Now his proportions are described to be gigantic. As I said, the clouds in the sky are being shattered, shaken. This is something similar to what is described about certain other demons like Vrutarasura in the 6th canto also. So when Krishna is fighting demons in Vrindavan, each story is like in the Western literature, the David and Goliath story. So this is an Old Testament story where David is a small boy. He is almost like Krishna, 7-8 years old, and Goliath is a giant demon. So David and Goliath is a common metaphor used for describing where one person is very small, the other person is very big, and there is a fight over there. So Krishna, although in one sense the odds are completely against Krishna, Krishna is just a small boy, and Keshi is a giant horse. Now we may think horses are not particularly threatening creatures. We may say, okay, tigers or lions are threatening. However, in their own way, horses can be extremely dangerous. It's not just if somebody is riding a horse and the horse may go out of control and throw them away. Horses have hard hooves, and if somebody falls on the ground and a horse stamps their hooves, and the bones can just crack apart. So horses can also be dangerous. And he's a giant horse with great force and speed coming, and yet Krishna wins effortlessly. Krishna wins with every demon. So Bala Kridakanam Kridanakam iva. Uddhava says that Krishna's pastimes, when he performs them, what is happening is all the pastimes are he is like a child playing with toys, as I mentioned always. Krishna is weaponless, yet he is matchless. One of the characteristics of Krishna in Vrindavan is that he never raises any weapons. Not only doesn't raise weapons, he doesn't even have weapons. Krishna doesn't raise weapons in Kurukshetra also, but Krishna has actually told his charioteer Daruka that keep my chariot with all my weapons ready. If Arjun is in danger, this he especially tells on the day when on the 14th day when Arjun has decided to kill Jayadratha by sunset, he says that keep all my weapons and my chariot ready. If Arjun is not able to reach Jayadratha, I will make sure that Jayadratha is killed. So Krishna doesn't raise weapons over there. But in Vrindavan, Krishna doesn't even have weapons. Krishna doesn't use any weapons. And though weaponless, he wins every battle. So in this particular case, what does Krishna do? How does he win this battle? He transforms his arm into a weapon. So Krishna here uses his left hand. Now, it's significant in the Bhagavatam that there are many times when Krishna's left hand is talked about. Now, in some religious traditions, especially in the European or Christian tradition, if somebody is a lefty, that's considered inauspicious. And people who are left-handed, they're forced to write with the right hand, forced to use the right hand. And the idea is that the left hand was considered inauspicious. Now, generally in our tradition, that is just understood to be something which we get from our karma. There is no strong inauspiciousness associated with that. But the general understanding is that the left hand is normally the less trained, less expert hand. We do more things with our right hand than the left hand. So when they say Krishna uses left hand, that means Krishna is actually using that left hand or left arm is used to convey the effortlessness. Like in Hindi mein se tu to daye haath ka khel hai. That that it is easily, I can easily defeat you. So it's very, very easy. So what happens is, it is described Krishna uses the little finger of his left hand to thwart Indra's plans. Ekadinamana Indra Kumaro, Naka Upar Govardhana Dharo. So just as Krishna uses a little finger of his left hand over there, so here Krishna uses his left hand, actually it's his left arm. So as this Keshi comes charging toward Krishna, Krishna decides to play with him a little bit. Krishna just effortlessly, there is a little bit action initially, but eventually what Krishna does is Krishna just extends his hand. And this Keshi, in the form of a horse, his mouth is opened loud. He's neighing, and his neighing seems like screaming loudly, it's threatening. But his mouth is open, and Krishna just puts his hand in his mouth. And it's not just the hand, but also the arm goes in. And when his arm goes in, what happens is, suddenly the arm starts acting like a weapon. So the Brahma Samhita describes that Angani asa sakalendriya vrittimanti, that every limb of Krishna, every organ of Krishna can perform the function of any other organ. We often say that Krishna, with his eyes, he can accept the bhoga that we offer. So, but it is not just that Krishna, when we say God is omnipotent, it doesn't just mean that one sense or one limb, one organ can perform the function of another organ. It also means that Krishna's any limb can perform any function. So now suddenly becoming hot or tough That is not the function of any limb in itself. That's like a weapon. If somebody's somebody's like a hot missile or something, a fiery missile somebody is discharging. So Krishna's arm becomes like a weapon, and it just goes inside Keshi's mouth. And when it goes inside the mouth, he has teeth. Horse's teeth are not particularly sharp, but still they are teeth. And he just can't do anything. The hand just goes inside. Keshi can't take it out. Keshi can't crush it, can't break it. It becomes inside it. Not only is it there, it starts becoming hot and becomes so hot that Keshi's gums melt and his teeth just fall off from there. And he chokes. Krishna's hand not only goes inside, it starts expanding. And expanding, he just breaks it. He just falls there, falls down, choked, breathless, and dead. So there are several pastimes where actually Krishna or some part of Krishna enters into the demons. In Aghasur, he enters completely into Aghasur's body and then tears apart his belly. In the case of Bakasur, he enters into Bakasur swallows him, and again there's the similarity that Bakasur finds Krishna to be very hot and he spits Krishna out. Here he finds him very hot, but he just can't do anything about it, and he just falls, he collapses, he perishes over there. So this now Krishna transforms his arm into a weapon, we could say. It's like a fiery missile which devours, which destroys. The question may come, does Krishna need weapons? Does God need weapons? So actually speaking, I answer questions on my website. So recently, I was asked a question. In India, there's a lot of Christian conversion happening. And there are some Christians who have like some serious criticisms of something like the discriminatory caste system. But some criticisms are quite puerile, quite pathetic. So one of them is that, see, Jesus is God and he does not need any weapons. But the Hindu gods, because they are not powerful, they need the support of weapons. So this is a childish argument. So first of all, there's a difference between the God with a capital G and God with a small g. There are Devtas, and the Devtas, they are not omnipotent. So they may have weapons. Now the Supreme Being does not need any weapons. In fact, in the Vibhuti Yoga chapter, Krishna describes that every power actually comes from him. Not just power of powerful people, but power of even powerful things. So it is Krishna who gives power to the weapons. So without Krishna empowering a weapon, nothing will act. Now war is going on between Ukraine and Russia is attacking Ukraine. There are many weapons being used. So now these weapons have destructive power, but where does the destructive power come from? Actually, that is invested in those particular objects by the divine arrangement. So he gives power to all weapons and he has that power. It is not that he loses that power. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam. So he may empower certain things, but still he has the power. That's why he doesn't need any weapons. When he uses weapons, it's for broadly two purposes. One is he just enhances the Leela by bringing variegatedness to the pastime. And if he at all uses weapons, it is because those weapons are also his associates. And so, for example, Sudarshan Chakra is also his associate. Sharnagadhanva is his bow is also his associate. And he's giving them an opportunity to serve him. We see in the Bhagavatam's 9th canto that there is a series of prayers, in fact, almost a whole chapter of prayers that Ambarish Maharaj is offering to Sudarshan Chakra. Sudarshan Chakra is attacking Durvasa Muni. So these are also considered divine. So they are given an opportunity to serve the Lord. So now, of course, Vrindavan has a mood of intimacy. So there is no need in Vrindavan for any weapons. But the broad principle is that Krishna does not need any weapons. If he uses them, it's only for the purpose of Leela and Seva. He enhances his Leela and gives the opportunity for Seva to those weapons who are his Parshadas. So that's the first section. Any reflections or questions on this before we go to the second? Okay.
Prabhuji, just one quick question.
Yes.
Prabhuji, generally, these demons which are coming in Krishna Lila, especially in Vrindavan, they were compared to some anarthas in our heart, isn't it? So what is the significance of the Keshi demon as compared to the anarthas that we have?
Okay. And that is a whole different subject. I was wondering whether I should take that in this session, but I'll just briefly mention here 2-3 things. So first is that that the idea of demons representing something, that is let's put at 3 levels. That is not mentioned directly in the Bhagavatam, and it's very significant that Srila Prabhupada does not mention this in his Krishna book. In the entire Krishna book, Prabhupada doesn't talk about this demon representing this and this demon representing that. So in general, within the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, the non-literal meanings of what a particular demon means or what it doesn't mean, that has not been discussed so much. That has not been the emphasis. And the reason for this is that there is the Advaitic tendency to focus primarily on the symbolism and neglect the literal aspect. Actually, the literal is not the best way to describe it. It is, we could say, because yeah, it is literal in one sense, but it is transcendental also. So the Advaitins often just they say, okay, this pastime, it's okay. That is not what is important. The real important thing is, what does it signify? So now for example, now it's not that what it signifies is not considered important. So for example, Ravan signifies lust, and that is a motif which has been talked about in the Ramayana tradition very commonly. So in Krishna Leela, however, the focus is not so much on what it symbolizes. The focus is more on simply on what is, just relish it completely, just relish it. So that's why the symbolism itself is not very important. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, as far as I have read, he's the first acharya in our tradition who has talked about the non-literal significance of the various demons. And even while talking about that non-literal significance, he hasn't really elaborated that too much. So for example, he says Putana represents false guru. Now how exactly he represents Putana represents the false guru, that is not what he goes into. So actually this demons in Krishna Leela, I have a whole series of seminars on this, but there's the first class in this about what is this non-literal, why does Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually give this non-literal meaning? So I'll just quickly explain that answer to this question. So what he does is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he talks about this primarily in his book Krishna Samhita and also in Chaitanya Shikshamrut. So what he does over there is, first he redefines the words Kanishtha, Madhyama and Uttama. So now in the Chaitanya Charitamrut or in the Updeshamrut also, the Bhakti Rasamrita also, these words are defined in a particular way. But what he is doing is, he defines 3 levels at which we may approach Krishna Leela. And he says Kanishtha is the introductory, the basic. And he says people who are Kanishtha, they see only the literal. And he says, oh, there was this giant demon, there was this big mountain, and Krishna lifted that big mountain. And that is what they focus on. And such people, they will focus on insisting that yes, there was actually a horse which was so big that the clouds were scattered by it. There was actually a mountain which Krishna lifted. And for many people who are a little bit rational, how is this possible? This doesn't make any sense. And they say, oh, all these stories are something symbolic, and you are foolish, you are taking it literally. So what happens is, for accommodating such people, what he does is, he says, yeah, those who take literally things, they often believe they're irrational, they believe superstitions. So they are less intelligent, but there is another higher level. That is the Madhyama level. So at the Madhyama level, we take the metaphorical, the non-literal meanings of these words, of these pastimes. And then he just as an indication gives, okay, this means this, this means this, this means this. Now, in one sense, what is he doing is, he's basically creating space for intellectuals to start appreciating Krishna Lila. Because there are many intellectual people, for them the idea of the some of the sheer dimensions of Krishna Lila will be very difficult to accept. So he says, okay, yeah, if you can't take the literal, you focus on the metaphorical. But what he does is so expert. He says, okay, so now what is so metaphorical? What has happened at that time was, now this applies for us as sadhakas also, but at that time, and there was this was one contemporary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who had written a book on Krishna Lila, and one of the criticisms of Krishna Lila at that time, of Krishna in general, was that Krishna was considered like an immoral god. So for the Britishers who came to India and they colonized India and they educated Indians in English, so for them, there were in Bengal, this was in Bengal, there were two deities which signified the depravity of Hinduism. How Hinduism is such a terrible religion. And those two deities were Kali and Krishna. So Kali signified brutality. A goddess who drinks blood, a goddess who wears skulls, a garland of skulls. What kind of barbaric people would worship such a god? And Krishna was considered immoral. Now, what kind of god, dances and dallies with other men's wives? And what kind of people will worship such a god? So what happened was, Krishna was considered immoral, Kali was considered brutal, and both were used to demean and denigrate Hinduism. So what happened, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that actually all these Krishna Lila pastimes, they are, leave alone they being immoral, they are meant to actually purify our hearts. And thus he associates various demons in Krishna Lila with particular anarthas in the heart, particular forms of immorality or particular forms of impurity, and how we can purify it. So that is the focus, or that not the focus, the purpose. So what is Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying? Those who find the literal difficult to believe, and those who find the moral dimensions of Krishna Lila questionable, for them he is using the metaphorical, he's giving the metaphorical meaning and drawing moral significance, or giving moral significance of each demon killing pastime. Having done that, he says, so what those who look at the metaphorical, now these may be Advaitins, these may be rationalists, whoever they may be, they may think, oh, we are far more intelligent than the literal. He says, okay, you may be, but there is a higher level for relation. And what is the higher beyond the metaphorical? So generally, most people think, oh, literal is for less intelligent people, the metaphorical is the real thing. He says, no, the metaphorical is not the real thing. There's a transcendental level. And the transcendental is the real. The transcendental is the rasika aspect. So we see this dramatic focus. See, in the Bhagavatam, there is a description of Krishna lifting Vrindavan. And even the Vrajavasis ask, how did Krishna lift Vrindavan? How did Krishna lift this whole mountain? So it is not that the Vrajavasis themselves are completely gullible. Any story is told and they believed it. They also ask the question, how could Krishna lift Vrindavan? But if you see the overall focus of the Bhagavatam and the focus of the Acharya's commentaries is not on how wonderful Krishna is, that Krishna lifted Vrindavan, therefore Krishna is God. No, the focus of the Bhagavatam and the Acharyas is, okay, why did Krishna lift Vrindavan? And after lifting Vrindavan, what did Krishna do? So the focus is on the loving reciprocation between Krishna and the Brajavasis. The love of Krishna for Govardhan. He wants to glorify Govardhan. And Krishna also teaches a lesson to Indra through it. The focus is, in one sense, not on proving God's greatness. The focus in the Bhagavatam, in the Govardhan Leela, is not on proving God's greatness. It is on demonstrating God's sweetness. Yes, his greatness is there, but that's just incidental. So, okay, there was a storm and the mountain was lifted up as a umbrella. How amazing that is. But the focus is, if you see Anand Vrindavan Champu, gives an elaborate description of the pastimes that happen under Govardhan. And he, in the Sanskrit verses, he doesn't even spend more than 5 verses on describing that, okay, Krishna lifted Govardhan. That's all, finished. But he speaks almost more than 100 verses on the loving reciprocations between Krishna and the devotees under Govardhan. So the point which I am making is that the rasa aspect, relishing the pastime, is what is more important. So the metaphorical significance is not the primary thing. Now we as sadhakas can also use it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur give it for a particular purpose. We as sadhakas can use it for applying in our sadhana life also. But we don't have to focus too much on that. So you could say it is valid, it is valuable to consider what each demon represents, but that is not the primary focus for studying the 10th canto. And acharyas before Bhaktivinoda Thakur and acharyas after Bhaktivinoda Thakur have not really focused too much on that. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his talks on Krishna Lila also doesn't focus too much on what each demon represents. So that is a tool, that way of looking at Krishna Lila is a tool which can be used to make Krishna Lila intelligible and applicable for some people. Intelligible means, how do I make sense of this? Oh, actually there's some non-literal significance of it. Oh, okay. Applicable, okay, how is all this relevant for me? Okay, this demon represents this and this is what you can do to purify yourself. Okay. However, for sadhakas, for those who are bhakti sadhakas, the primary focus, especially by the time we come to 10th canto, is relishing. Pibatta Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. So if you have to relish the Bhagavatam, then the non-literal significance may not be the most important thing to focus on in the 10th canto pastimes. Does it address the question? I mean, I didn't address the question specifically. I addressed, you could say, the question underlying the question or the principle underlying the question. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. So we finish in how much? 5 minutes? 10? How much time do we have? No.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Whatever time you take, it's okay.
Okay, sure. So we move to the second section now. So second section is what? Narada Muni is Narada Muni appears in Vrindavan and he praises Krishna. And he says, oh, you just killed the Keshi demon, and he talks about Krishna's divine position. So I'll take one verse from here. Atate kala rupasya shapayishnoramushyavai akshahuninam nidhanam drakshami arjuna sarathe. So here is describing in the future, I will see what? Atate kala rupasya. I will see you in the form of time. Kshapaishnor amushyavai. You will actually kshapa, that you will akshahuninam nidhanam. There will be akshahunis of armies, of warriors, of soldiers. Nidhanam, you will destroy them. Drakshayami, I'll see. And he says, you will come as Kala Rupa, you will do this as Kala Rupa. At the same time, you will also be seated as Arjuna Sarathe. You will be seated as the charioteer of Arjuna. So in this way, Narada Muni describes practically many of the major pastimes that will come in the next few chapters. And from chapter 50 on, chapter 40 onwards, 41 onwards, till chapter 90. what is going to happen, he's describing this. So now this of course is referring to the Mahabharata war, where it's interesting here, how should I put it, that Narada Muni is integrating both the literal and the non-literal vision. That means what? Literally, Krishna was there as the charioteer of Arjuna. Non-literally, it is that Krishna was the destroyer of all the Kaurava forces. Literally, Krishna did not kill anyone. But it is Krishna who empowered Arjuna, Bhima and others to destroy the Kaurava army. So in that sense, Krishna was there in that sense. So this is, he's saying, I'm having this vision of the future. This is the wonderful pastime that you will do in the future. So now the question may come up, now how is he knowing the future? So the point is that Narada is a Siddha, he's an enlightened sage. And many sages have the capacity of what is called being Trikalagya. Trikalagya means, so Gya is to know and Kala is time. So Trikalagya, to know all three phases of time. They know past, present and future. And we see even in the Gopi Geet, when the gopis are describing the various demons, so they mention demons who will come in the future also. So in fact, one of the references there is to Vyomasura. So Vyala Rakshasad Varsha Marutad Vidyuntanulad Vrisha Mayatmajad Vishwato Bhayad. So Mayatmajad. So Mayatmaja is the son of the Maya demon. So that is often said to refer to Vyomasura. So even the gopis, they may not look like sages, but they are actually the topmost spiritual seers. So knowing the future, it is in one sense nowadays a big business. Astrologers can make a lot of money by claiming to know the future. But here there are sages who actually know the future. And what does this mean? I'll look at it from three different perspectives. First is that when it comes to Krishna Leela, knowing is not as important as relishing. There's a difference between these two things. So for example, let's analyze this. What is it that makes Krishna Leela attractive? Now, is that the plot line is there and the plot twists are there? Plot line means, okay, story, what happens next, what happens next, what happens next? And plot twist means what? Suddenly something unexpected happens. So somebody is a hero and then suddenly you find somebody we think is a hero and suddenly you find out, oh, actually that person is the villain. Or somebody is a villain and then you find out that person is the hero. That's a plot twist. So generally, when people are, say, watching some suspense thriller or reading some mystery novel, so it is the storyline and the plot twist. There's a story that is important, the plot that is important. And that's why when there are reviews of movies, many times in the movie reviews, they write prominently, spoilers included. So what is it? What is spoiler? Spoiler means what? That here we are going to tell the story over here, what actually happened. And if you have not watched it and if you are planning to watch it, then knowing the story will may spoil it for you. You are watching it for enjoying it. So if you know who is the killer or what happened, that may spoil it. So in one sense, why am I discussing this? That somebody may say, oh, if you already know the story, then won't it spoil the enjoyment? But Krishna Leela is actually different. In Krishna Leela, the plot lines are fascinating. Can everyone mute themselves, please? The plot lines themselves are fascinating, but beyond that, that's not the primary thing in Krishna Leela. It is the characters are so enchanting and their reciprocations are so endearing that we long to watch them again and again. So in one sense over here, it is not just the knowledge. Suppose somebody likes a particular character. Maybe somebody likes a particular movie star, or somebody likes some historical incident that has happened. So what happens then? Say in Maharashtra, Shivaji Maharaj is considered a great hero. So of course, in all over India, for India is a great hero. But the point is, if somebody is adores Shivaji Maharaj, in any movie of Shivaji Maharaj, they want to watch it again and again, or they want to read the story again and again. If there is so what happens is, in that case, what happens is not as important as who is doing it and how they are doing it. So what is being done is of interest in some kind of story, some kind of novel. So especially like, as I said, suspense stories, mystery novels, but where somebody just loves the characters. So plot lines and plot twist means what is happening or what is being done. But enchanting characters means who is doing it, and endearing reciprocation means how they are doing it. So how somebody speaks the words, what are the expressions on their face when they are speaking it. So people want to watch that and relish that. So in Krishna Leela, knowing is not as important as relishing. So what happens is, that's why although Narada Muni knows the pastimes, he says still his mood is, I look forward to seeing you performing all these pastimes. It's like, it's like you tell somebody that, I know the story of this movie. Or just to take another example, that if say somebody is going to give a class and we tell them, I know you are going to speak these points in this class today. I look forward to you speaking these points. You say, what is the point over there if you already know all the things? But it is sometimes what happens is, we just love, venerate the person so much, even if they're speaking the same pastime. The fact that we are associating with that person, and the fact that they are describing this pastime with such sweetness, with such devotion, with such depth, that that's what we are attracted to. So knowing is not as important as relishing. And this is what is Narada Muni saying, I'm looking forward to this, to you performing all these pastimes. So Krishna Leela is not like a suspense story. It's more like not exactly a romance novel, but a novel with very sweet characters, rich emotions, and very beautiful reciprocations. So just watching it again and again and again, we relish it more and more. So that's why Narada Muni knowing it doesn't make any difference. So now, of course, Krishna Leela in one sense is like a natya. So there are some variations in Krishna Leela. Krishna performs the same pastimes again and again, each time when he descends into the universe and when he goes to different universes. But there are some differences in the pastimes, and some minor variations are there. And that's why, and also when the different acharyas across different traditions retell the pastimes, there are some variations within those pastimes. So it's like a person is performing a drama, and they go from place A to place B to place C to perform the drama. More or less the drama remains the same, but some dialogue, some characters, some actors may change. The minor variations are there, but the variations are not the key thing. The actual drama is the main course. The variations are just a flavor. So as I give an example, like some very sweet movies are there. People may watch those movies again and again. And even in the West, there are some classic books, say like Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, or they're almost like, she wrote that book about 2 centuries ago, and there are more than 30-40 times it has been made into movies or plays or TV series, and each time it comes out, people want to watch it, people love it. Similarly with Shakespeare's plays. So here everybody knows the story, but how the story is being enacted, that's what is being relished. Now of course we can say this is mundane, but the principle is the same, and the principle is much more applicable to Krishna, that even mundane things, when there is some depth, there are some attractive characters or some depth of emotions, you want to watch it again and again. So Krishna Leela, knowing it is not the key thing, it's connecting with the character, connecting with the emotions, appreciating the reciprocations. That's what will give us relish more and more. So that is why Narada Muni says, I'm looking forward to this. So now the question comes up, okay, that if somebody knows what is going to happen in the future, then does that take away free will? Well, that's a big subject, but I just mentioned it briefly over here, that actually knowledge of the future, even if somebody has that knowledge of the future, their knowledge of the future is like our knowledge of the past. It is information without intervention. That means, say, I know I woke up at this time today in the morning, and then I did this, and I woke up 20 minutes later than what I wanted to. Okay, but I know it, but I can't change it. It's happened. So it's information without intervention. Now, in the case of Krishna, when Krishna knows the future, he can change, but he doesn't intervene, generally speaking. So, and generally with sages, they also don't intervene. They let nature follow its course. So that's why it doesn't take away free will. They just know, okay, this is what you're going to do, but they're not controlling it. They're not determining it. That's why there can be free will, and there can also be precognition. See, precognition, what does it mean? Cognition means to know, and precognition means to know beforehand. So if somebody knows something beforehand, so when when Narada Muni is saying Krishna will performing this pastimes, does that mean Krishna has no free will to perform some other pastime or perform the pastime in some other way? No, Krishna is going to perform his pastime by his supreme free will. But Narada Muni knows the future. It is information of what is going to happen in the future, but it is not control. It is not intervention. So there is no free will being taken away over here. So in this way, this is the second pastime, and the significance is that as the Vraja pastimes are ending, Narada Muni appears over there. So, and what is he saying? That Krishna is going to perform these wonderful pastimes outside Vrindavan, and I look forward to it. So what is the significance over here? See, Narada Muni is sometimes called as Kalaha Priya. He causes quarrels. It's not exactly he causes quarrels. Actually, he causes the acceleration of Krishna's pastimes. So that whatever quarrels may be below the surface, they may come on the surface and the issues may be resolved. So what happens is, it was Narada Muni who told Kamsa earlier that Kamsa thought, okay, his 8th child is the problem. So the first sons are not the problem. But Narada Muni brought the lotus to him, brought a 8-petal lotus, and he says, which is the 8th over here and which is the first? Oh, he says the Devatas are very cunning. They may cheat you. Vishnu may come as anyone. And in this way, what happens is, Kamsa becomes brutal, and he starts killing all the sons of Devaki before Krishna appears. So by that, what happens? 2 things happen. One is that Kamsa's sins become more and more. That means that his the reactions for them also will come faster. As you say, Paka Ghada, that sins are overflowing now. And secondly, when they have one child, generally parents, if they have a child, they take care of the child. They don't have the next child immediately. They'll take for 2, 3 years, 4 years. After that, they will have a next child. But when they lose Vasudeva and Devaki lose the child, then immediately they have the next child as quickly as possible. So that way, what happens is, Krishna, who is going to come as the 8th child, comes faster. So just as Narada Muni, he accelerated Krishna's advent. Why? Because he wanted dharma to be established in the world. So now he's describing these pastimes to indicate his eagerness. Krishna, now you will establish dharma in the world. You will destroy all the demons and you will perform your wonderful pastimes outside Vrindavan. In that way, it is Narada Muni has this very significant role. So it's not just he's telling his pastimes, he's actually, in one sense, accelerating the establishment of dharma. He accelerated it earlier, and now he's anticipating that establishment of dharma will happen soon. Okay. So any question over here? I see one hand raised. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, just a question regarding the precognition and the free will you were talking about. So if like Narada Muni told Kamsa, like he can see the future, and he talked about the example of the petals and made him change the decision. But yeah, he has the free will as well. So he could have reacted in a different way as well, Kamsa. Is there an opportunity was still there for that?
Okay, can demons act in different ways? Generally, Krishna never takes away the free will of anyone. So could Duryodhana have acted in a different way? Actually, Krishna did the same thing, isn't it? Krishna went to Duryodhana as Shanti Dut. That he went as Shantidut, so therefore he wanted Duryodhana to avoid the war. So everybody has free will. Now we may say, then how will Krishna's pastime be go on? Well, Krishna can arrange his pastimes in many different ways. It is when a particular demon takes the role of antagonist, takes the role of the opponent in Krishna's pastime. Now what that means is essentially that that demon has that particular desire and Krishna is simply using that demon. It is not that Krishna is, it is not that that demon has a service attitude to participate in Krishna's pastime. Rather, that demon has a demonic attitude and Krishna uses the demonic attitude within his pastime. But if the demon can change the heart, then Krishna can perform his pastimes in a different way also. Krishna doesn't need a particular demon to act in a demoniac way to perform a particular pastime. So everybody has free will and Krishna doesn't want anyone to misuse their free will. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Sorry, Prabhuji. So when Narada Mahamuni can predict what Krishna will do as well, in the shloka, how he has said, foretold it. But Krishna has his own free will to do in whatever way he want to do the Leela, right?
Yes. So here we need to understand two things. See, first is, it is often that the hearts of the great devotees are the abodes of Krishna, that Krishna is present in everyone's heart, but Krishna is very happily present and very readily manifest in the hearts of great devotees like Narada Muni. So in one sense, Krishna has a particular plan to act in a particular way, and Krishna has already revealed that to Narada Muni in his heart. And Narada Muni is simply speaking what Krishna is going to do. So rather than saying that Narada Muni is saying something and Krishna has to do accordingly, rather Narada Muni is saying what Krishna is planning to do.
Right.
So that way, Krishna's will is not restricted by Narada Muni's foretelling of the pastimes.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, Bharadwaj.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, my question is in line with Mataji's question just now, but it's slightly different. Not in relation to Krishna's pastimes. I read in one of Prabhupada's letters, Prabhupada said that, for example, if a thief is about to steal something, Krishna knows that he is going to steal, but he doesn't interfere. So he lets, so that means he doesn't interfere with that free will, whatever, so Krishna knows what we are going to do. So, so he knows, what is going to happen, like in eternity, into eternity, what's going to happen. So is that because our, we are total, how does he know, probably, in a way? How would he know? Because yeah, sorry, I'm not able to express that question properly, but how does he know, how does Krishna know that this thief is going to steal now?
Okay, now this is itself a huge subject. I have I said a whole seminar on this, what actually omniscience means. In fact, one of the main arguments of atheists, a little more sophisticated intellectual atheists against the existence of God, is they say the concept of God itself is irrational because the definition of God is self-contradictory. Because they say that omniscience and omnipotence, omniscience means God knows everything and omnipotence means God can do everything. So these two attributes themselves are self-contradictory. That if God knows everything, then can he change it? If he knows this is what is going to happen, then can he change it? If he changes it, does he know it? So what happens is, if he's going to change it, that means he doesn't know it. If he knows it, that means he can't change it. So now I don't want to talk about the atheistic argument and the refutation of the atheistic argument over here in detail. But the point is that for Krishna, his attributes, his knowing of the, for Krishna, his defining attribute is not his omniscience, that he knows everything. His defining attribute is not his omnipotence. He can do anything. So Krishna's defining attribute is love. So in terms of that language, we can call it as omnibenevolence. Benevolence means wanting to do good. So Krishna's defining characteristic is Suhrudam Sarvabhutanam. He loves everyone, he wants the best for everyone. So in that sense, Krishna's attributes are you could say his servants or his aids in his mission, in his purpose. So Krishna has a purpose, that is to help every living being become elevated. And his attributes are all meant to assist in that purpose. So what do I mean by this? That see, Krishna's attributes are not like things he's stuck with. So for example, if somebody is very tall, say 7 feet tall, now that's impressive. You can stand out in any place you go, 7 feet tall person. But then suppose a 7-foot person wants to become a spy. It's very difficult for them to become a spy because they're so easily visible. So that 7-foot person is stuck with that 7 feet height. So it's a special ability, but they're stuck with that ability. So they can't change it. But Krishna is not stuck with his attributes. So Krishna has his attributes, but his attributes don't define him. He defines his attributes. That means a 7-foot person is defined by that height and he can't change it. Oh, 7 feet, I want to become 5 feet now. Can't do that. But Krishna is not stuck with his attributes. Krishna is not defined by his attributes. He defines his attributes. That's why for Krishna, his omniscience and his omnipotence, they are all subordinate to his omnibenevolence. He's wanting to do good for living beings. So that's why when we say Krishna knows, okay, a particular thief is going to rob, or a particular, even may say a devotee is going to do something which may cause that devotee to fall down, or whatever we may talk. Does Krishna know it? Well, it is that Krishna is there in the heart, and in one sense, what Krishna knows is, see, there are choices and there are consequences. So, say for example, if somebody is on a particular road, they're driving on a road and they don't have a map. They don't know, okay, they come to a fork, should I go left, should I go right? They're confused. Which will take me closer to the destination. But somebody who is watching for me from an airplane above, or somebody who has a global view, somebody who has a map, they know, okay, they're going to go here, they'll get to this place. If they go here, they'll get to this place. Now, taking this further, so see, we are like that person who doesn't know sometimes what consequences our choices will have. The more we come to Sattva Guna, the more we study Shastra, we become a little more far-sighted. But we don't always know the consequences of all our choices. But having said that, Krishna also knows us from our past. Just like say parents know their children very well. And then so if parents okay, now a child has come back from school and in a few days the exam is there. So will the child study for the exam or will the child play a video game now? Now we may say that as the parents, I know what the child is going to do. But that doesn't mean the parents are determining that choice. And sometimes the parents may think, oh, the child is just going to play video games. But the child going to the parents, going to the child room, and the child is studying diligently. No, this exam is important. I want to prepare for it. So what happens? The child surprises the parent. So what happens is Krishna knows two things. First is which choices will lead to which consequences. And Krishna knows us well. So in that sense, he also knows which choices we will take. But he doesn't control it. And we have, because we have free will, we have, in one sense, the capacity to choose. And that's why when Krishna says that if you offer a fruit or flower to me, I'll be pleased by that. So now if Krishna says, I already know you're not going to offer to me and you're going to offer to me. So what is there to be pleased in it? No, it's a reciprocation over there. So if we understand this point that Krishna, he's omniscient in the sense that he knows the consequence of our choices. He knows our tendencies. So in that sense, he knows what we are likely to choose, but he doesn't control it. And we still have the capacity to choose more wisely. And when we do that, that pleases him. So in that sense, his omniscience and his omnipotence, they are both subordinate to his omnibenevolence. Does it address the question?
Yes, Prabhuji.
A
Thank you,
lot more we
Prabhuji.
can speak on this.
Yes,
Lots
yes. We
more we
missed
can
the
speak on
point that omnibenevolence is a very nice, Prabhuji. Thank you. Very insightful. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you. So Prabhu, I don't want to go over time. Should we stop here? I didn't discuss the Vyoma pastime. I'll just quickly mention it. 2 points in that pastime.
Yeah, Prabhuji, please complete that pastime as well. Then.
So in the Vyomasura pastime, so he comes as a cowherd boy. So the cowherd boys are playing as they are playing sheep and shepherds, and he comes as a shepherd, but he says, okay, I'll come and steal the sheep. They're playing this game. So he is deceptive and he's stealing all the cowherd boys who are like shepherds. But Krishna catches him. And then what does Krishna do? Krishna just catches him from behind and grips him and crushes him. And he crushes him and he struggles, he tries to expand his size. But he's just not able to do anything. He's just completely overpowered and he just crushes. So now it's another significant point here that the first demon and the last demon who come in Krishna Lila, they come in human-like forms. The first demon is Putana, she comes in a female form. And this last demon who comes, he comes like a Gopa who is playing with other Gopas. And of course, he takes away there are other demons also come in human form. So they may have come, but the point is, he comes in human form. And what happens is, the Bhagavatam uses the word Pashu Maram Amarayat. The second last verse in this particular chapter is that Pashu Maram Amarayat. That Pashu Maram is, Pashu is animal, Maram is killing. So the way an animal is killed, that's how Krishna kills the demon. So in the Bhagavatam, the previous acharyas use generally the way they translate is that just as a sacrificial animal is killed. And Prabhupada in the Krishna book, he says that just as an animal is killed in a slaughterhouse. So what does this mean? So why is this particular description given? That means that although he appeared in a human-like form, Krishna knew that he was not a human being. And therefore, Krishna killed him. He had come with animalistic mentality and Krishna killed him accordingly. So in this way, this last demon who is described in the 10th canto, Krishna kills that demon. And that's how he elevates. He in one sense completes his Vrindavan pastime. And that's how he, now Akrura's coming will be the next pastime that will begin in this canto. So I'll quickly summarize what we discussed today. That discussed 3 main pastimes, out of which 2 were focused a lot. So first was the killing of the Keshi demon, and in that connection discussed how although Krishna was small and Krishna was weaponless, but still he was matchless and he killed even demons effortlessly. So Krishna doesn't use weapons in Vrindavan, and actually God doesn't need weapons. Even when he uses them, it's primarily to perform his Leela and to enhance his Leela and to give the Parshadas who are those weapons an opportunity for seva. And then second is that we discussed a little more elaborately about, so in that connection we discussed the non-literal significance of the pastimes of these demons in Vrindavan is mainly meant to give some space for intellectuals and moralists. Intellectuals to say that, oh, I can't accept the literal, okay, look at the metaphorical. And moralists, they say, oh, what are these stories all about? Oh, they are talking about removing impurities from the heart. For the bhaktas, that is the highest level is, yes, we can take the literal, we can also take the metaphorical, but we aspire for the transcendental, where just focus on relishing the pastimes. And in that theme was again echoed in the second analysis, where we discussed that Narada Muni already knows the future. He's a Trikalagya. So in Krishna Lila, the attraction is not just in the storyline and the plot twists. It is in the beautiful characters and the sweet reciprocations among those characters and the rich emotions that animate both the characters and the reciprocations. So that's why these are like classic stories where people watch not because they don't know what is going to happen in the story, but because it's so beautifully enacted and they love the characters. So not what is happening, but who is doing and how they are doing. That's what we are looking for in Krishna Lila. And so relishing is more important than knowing. And that's also the fact when Krishna, he's omniscient, he's omnipotent. So how are these two reconciled? So Krishna, his focus is not on knowing, but on loving and reciprocating love with us. So he knows which choices will lead to each consequences. He knows our conditioning so that he knows which choices we are likely to take. But still he's pleased when we choose wisely or choose better. And when any sages know the future, that is like our knowledge of the past. It is information without intervention. And lastly, Vyoma was the demon who was killed like an animal, although he came in a human form. He masked himself, but Krishna unmasked and destroyed him. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
jai.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. That was a very insightful class, as always, very thoughtful. Do you still have some time to take some more questions, Prabhuji? Maybe
Yes,
just
Prabhuji.
one or two. I think there was one hand which was raised earlier,
Yes,
but
Prabhu,
we
sure.
didn't take that question. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu, sure. One question you can take.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Pundarikaksha
So
Prabhu.
Pundarikaksha Prabhu, go ahead.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad from Prabhuji. Thank you for giving your association, Prabhuji. Very nice lecture, Prabhuji.
Hari Hari Jai.
Prabhuji, it is again on Narada Muni's interaction with Kamsa. So I was wondering about this. Is actually from a long time, the question, Prabhuji. So when Narada Muni, a pure devotee, comes and agitates, he's actually demon's mind is already agitating. So Narada Muni is adding fear to that, so that pastime will go faster, isn't Prabhuji? So how to understand a pure devotee, instead of showing compassion on the fallen souls, agitating more to that? And one thing, the other aspect is the moment of association with the pure devotee will change our fate. But how this, in this situation, when pure devotee Narada Muni is giving so much of association with the demons, but still they do the same, this is the same destination. Yes, that's my question.
Okay. See, the two different things over here, that there are different ways of treating. Anarthas are there in the heart. Some anarthas are dealt with by rejecting them, by regulating them and purifying ourselves. However, in some cases that just does not work. So for example, when let's put Narada Muni aside, let's take Krishna. Now in the Bhagavatam, it described that one reason why Krishna stopped the Indra Leela, stopped the Indra Puja, was because he wanted to anger Indra. Now we may say Krishna is God, why would he want to anger Indra? Actually speaking, it was not that Krishna wanted to intentionally agitate Indra. Rather, what happened is Krishna knew that there was pride in Indra, and Krishna wanted to free Indra from that pride. But what happens sometimes, if a person is not ready to admit that they have anarthas, it's very difficult for them to be purified of those anarthas. So Indra is of course not a demon. So it's like somebody doesn't admit that they are sick. Somebody is very vulnerable to cold and they get very severe, they become very severely sick. And they're not ready to admit they have any problem. Then maybe somebody who wants them to take a treatment will deliberately take them to a very cold place and they find it extremely unbearable. Hey, everybody is normal. Why am I so unbearable? Why am I so coughing and sneezing? Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I should take some treatment. So like that, when Krishna in one sense stopped Indra Puja, that was to not just to anger Indra. If Indra had no pride, he would not have become angry. But when he became angry and then he tried to attack Vrindavan and that whole incident happened. After that, Indra realized, what have I done? And he realized the arrogance that was there within him. and then he consciously chose to become humble and reform. So sometimes the way to reformation is not simply through regulation. It is sometimes you have to go through the worst to come back to the best, or to come back to a better thing. That's not the necessary way, and that's definitely not the recommended way for everyone. But in some cases, that is the only way that works. So in such situations, in such extreme situations, we can say, what can be done? Well, nothing else is possible. So that's why, so something similar is with respect to Narada Muni. There are some people who are reformable at that time, and Narada Muni is expert enough to see that. So Mrugari was killing animals, and he was quite ruthless. He was half killing animals, and still Narada Muni told him, no, actually better kill them full. Why? Because he knew that this person was capable of being reformed. So when he saw that, he was happy about it. But in some cases, some people may not be capable of being reformed. So then sometimes you can say that they have to be deformed before they can be reformed. So deformed means that they may either, sometimes they may at least realize it in this life, sometimes they may not realize it in this life at all. And then they may have to go to another life before they learn from the situation. And that's how they grow. So when Narada Muni is provoking Kamsa, what is happening is, like I said, that Kamsa was demoniac, but his demoniac activities needed to be, you could say, accelerated or worsened, so that he would get the due reactions. It's like somebody is a small-time criminal, then the law may decide, I don't want to pursue this person, I don't want to persecute them. But then if they commit a very big crime, then we cannot but persecute him. So sometimes what happens is, sometimes some law enforcement agencies, there's some big criminal who's doing some small crimes in maybe some new place. And as the criminal starts thinking that I can get away with these crimes, the law enforcement doesn't want to catch that person for some small crime. Okay, he will go for 1 year, 2 years, and again he'll come out of the jail. We want to put him in jail for 50 years, for lifetime. So let that person do some bigger crimes, and then we will catch him red-handed and we will punish him. Now, why do we need to do that? Because putting him in jail for 1 year, 2 years is not actually going to transform that person. So in some situations, exceptional situations, sometimes people like sages like Narada Muni may provoke a demon. So now, is it that they are not compassionate? Well, they are always compassionate. But now, what is the compassion? The compassion is that, or lava matra sadhu sangha, when we say that can transform people's hearts, what happens over there? That actually, even within a fraction of a moment, if we associate with a devotee, in that moment, that devotee can inject within our heart or infuse within our heart the desire to serve and glorify Krishna. Because the devotee is so energized, the devotee is so ecstatic in serving Krishna, that those who associate with such a devotee think, there must be something wonderful, something special about this. So let me also explore it. But if somebody's heart is not infused with the desire to serve Krishna, then what to speak of a lava matra? A lifelong association may not make much difference. Now we have Bhaktivinoda Thakur, not Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We have Advaita Acharya's son is described. One of his sons became a Advaitin. So he was with Advaita Acharya, but he became a Mayavadi. Prabhupada's own family, Prabhupada was a great devotee. Prabhupada's own family, they were pious, they were religious, but they never had the missionary zeal that Prabhupada had. So what happens is, everybody has free will. So pure devotee is ready and eager to infuse everyone with the desire to serve Krishna. But if somebody is not ready to take that desire, ready to act on that desire, then their transformation may not happen immediately. It may take a long time and may not to our vision at all. So the pure devotee's compassion doesn't override anybody's free will. The pure devotee's compassion means that they give the opportunity to use the free will properly. But still, it's up to that person to use the free will. Okay?
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Hare Krishna.
There is one more hand up, Prabhuji. We
Yes, last
still have
question.
some time.
Yes, we'll
Okay,
stop
we'll
through
take this last
Kirti,
one.
Yes, Kirti through. Yes, Kirti through.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Namo Pranams. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the nice class. Prabhuji, I have a general question with regards to all the demons, right? We know that it wasn't until very late in the piece that Kamsa was actually told or realized that Krishna was the 8th child that was going to be prophesied to kill him. But we see in Krishna Lila, all of the demons are coming to attack Krishna. Even Putana came directly to Krishna and things like that. So how do we understand that when all of the demons are coming to attack Krishna, but Kamsa doesn't realize that Krishna is the one that's actually going to kill him? Why is it that none of the other children in Vrindavan were being directly attacked by these demons? Or is it that maybe Krishna, when the demons were coming, was coming forward, and keeping the others children behind him type thing?
Well, okay, there are 2-3 different things over here. First is that there is a certain level of like knowing and not knowing in with respect to Krishna's special position or Krishna's divinity. So did the demons know that it is specifically Krishna who is their antagonist? Well, at one level, the sages knew about it. At one level, everyone knew about it. At another level, it was when Krishna actually killed Kamsa and fulfilled the prophecy of the 8th son being killed. Then it became became clear beyond all doubts. However, what happened is, essentially, that when the first demon came, that is Putana came, so that was just after the disappearance of, you could say, after the disappearance of the goddess in the Mathura prison cell, and she told that, you fool, the person whom you seek has already appeared somewhere. So that was the time when she started looking specifically for newborn children, and she came, and in Vrindavan, at that time Krishna was a newborn child. There's no description of any other gopas who are like exactly of the same age of Krishna. They may be, but there's no description of exactly the same age. So Putana came at that time because she was looking for just newborn children. And then when Putana was killed, it is described that Kamsa, like any king, he was also had some spies. So although Putana was killed, Kamsa came to know, and it is not a hidden fact, that actually that Putana, at least Putana, was found dead with Krishna on her body, near her breasts and everything like that. So Kamsa came to know that it is okay, this is this Krishna who is somehow associated with the killing of Putana. That Putana went, and it was basically how exactly Putana was killed was not very clear, but it is Krishna who was associated with the killing. That's how all the subsequent demons started zeroing in on Krishna. And as one after another demons started being killed, and it was becoming clear that Krishna was associated with the killing, then it became clear that, okay, Krishna is our primary target. So in that sense, initially it was Putana. It is described that, as far as I have read in the Acharya's commentaries as well as in Bhagavatam, there is no description of all other demons indiscriminately killing children and then finally finding Krishna. But with respect to Putana, it is described that she was a Kechari. She was habituated to killing children, and she was in a spree of killing children. And when she came to Vrindavan, she found this child. So the first was a general search for newborn child, which Putana was on. But after Putana's killing, it became clear for Kamsa that his target or his threat was Kamsa, and that's why remaining demons were coming for killing Krishna primarily. Okay.
Thank you, Guruji.
So thank you very much. Pantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji, for coming and giving this wonderful class, as well as answering all these questions very thoughtfully and very precisely. We are very grateful for you finding this time And we are hoping that in this Sravan Utsav, we will be able to hear back from you again after a few weeks. Thank you very much. Let's show our gratitude by again chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare